Welcome back. This is the Jackson Neill Sports Podcast here on November 6th, 2018. Back-to-back days here on the Sports Podcast here on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes, and YouTube. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, going to talk about the NFL. Big game last night. The Cowboys not looking good. I want to touch on some stuff I'm thinking about in the NFL on this podcast. But first, quick word from the sponsor. Believe the Hype is the new sponsor for the Jackson Neill Sports Podcast and the rest of my podcasts as well. They sell the latest sneakers. They get the most limited edition drops and sell them straight to you guys. Right now, they just added from today the Air Jordan 1 PSG, those brand new shoes. They have them in multiple sizes, so check down the links in the description to find those and follow them on Twitter and Instagram at BelieveHype2018. So view all that down in the description. But now, on some football. Past the sneakers, into the actual podcast, where the Dallas Cowboys last night lost on national TV to the Titans 28-14 in Dallas. And whether it was Titans players dancing on the star, Dak Prescott not able to do nearly anything, it was just a horrific performance for Dallas all around, especially on their home field on Monday Night Football. And with this loss, you look at the NFC East standings. The Redskins lead at 5-3. Philadelphia's there at 500, 4-4. Then Dallas is third, a game behind Philly, 3-5. And of course, the New York Giants down there in the basement at 1-7. But looking at this Dallas Cowboys team, it brings up the question because right now the organization feels like it needs an overhaul. I've heard multiple people say that, and for a while there, it's felt like that as well, where it always felt like, regardless of, if you go back to the days of, let's say, Tony Romo, if you said, oh, well, Tony Romo, he's not even that good, or there were, the difficulties he had, he didn't ever really win a playoff game, all that stuff, basically, if all those criticisms of Tony Romo were kind of figured out to be, oh, wait a second, he's holding this franchise together, and that's what he was. He was constantly beaten up back there, and they were able to be solid and, make a little noise in the postseason here or there, win the division maybe every other year or so, but they weren't able to really do much damage once they got to the playoffs. They weren't able to make any Super Bowl runs, certainly not to the level that we've seen the Cowboys in their years prior been able to do. And it started to think, well, maybe it's time for something to switch up for the Dallas Cowboys. But then went into those seasons where they had with Ezekiel Elliott and now Dak Prescott, their first couple seasons doing really well, among the best teams in the NFL with that tandem back there in the backfield and under center. So it became this Dallas Cowboys where, as teams like the Washington Redskins were having a hard time finding their footing, the New York Giants with Eli Manning still to this day are having problems with him. The Eagles, yes, they won the Super Bowl last year, but a couple of years prior really weren't doing that well. Dallas looked like they finally righted this ship. But now with this recent loss, with how this season is going, it begins to look very, very dark moving forward for the Dallas Cowboys. And when you look at their 3 wins so far this season, the one against the Giants, a home win against the Giants, nothing to really write home about as the Giants are 1-7. Beating the Lions 26-24, that's a solid win. Yet Detroit's still not one of the top tier teams in the NFC. A win that looked very good at the time, that 40-7 over Jacksonville. Still, that looks pretty good, although we all have our questions about the Jaguars' defense and if they are for real. So even that one's coming into question. Then with losses to people like the Panthers, the Seahawks, the Texans, the Redskins, the Titans, it's starting to feel like this Cowboys team is running out of time in order to make a run towards the postseason. And it's really becoming where this upcoming week, they're going at the Eagles on another nationally televised game right up the maybe not the best thing for the Dallas Cowboys right now, but on Sunday Night Football at Philadelphia. And sitting a game behind the Eagles and only 2 games behind the division leader Washington Redskins is not it's too early to write them off as for any saying they're not going to make the playoffs or anything along those lines, but you still have to wonder, what is the ceiling for this Cowboys team? that, okay, let's say they did make a run. Let's say they are able to string a couple wins together against teams like the Redskins at home, like the Eagles, and they either get what most likely would be winning the division because a high record, you're not going to need that big of a record to win this division. It's looking like 9-7 is going to compete for that division title. 10-6 might bring it home. So if you figure the Cowboys do that, that's a big if. Just getting to 10-6 at this point would be going 7-1. So maybe the wild card's more likely of an opportunity for the Cowboys. But even if they were able to, let's just say, compete for that division or compete for a playoff spot, not even get to the playoffs, where do the Cowboys go after this year? Because they have wide receiver troubles. They got Amari Cooper, but that one wide receiver does not solve every single problem. We've known that with this team before. Dak Prescott's fine, but he's not the superstar we thought he was going to become because, let's face it, when you have a running back like Ezekiel Elliott who was putting up the numbers like he was, it's pretty easy to make that look all right. The defense really isn't there, and it just feels like this Cowboys team, even if they achieve their best case scenario, where are they going to be next season? And while there's some teams in the NFL right now who are absolutely abysmal and who are making some moves that at first I liked, but now I'm completely questioning. Look at the Oakland Raiders. At least you understand a little bit what they're trying to do. Don't know if they're doing it that well. They're saying we're going to get a bunch of picks, we're going to stockpile and go to the future. They're trying to build something. Not sure if it's the best way, but they're trying. San Francisco in recent years, they were pretty bad, but then they decided, look, they saw Jimmy Garoppolo as an opportunity, so we got to go get him. We're going to give up everything to go get this guy. And they got him. Now he got injured this season, which was unfortunate, but that really turned the franchise around. And for this Dallas Cowboys team, it's beginning to feel like, first of all, Jerry Jones has been there forever, and he thinks, and you get the feeling that he thinks that he knows that everything what he does is right, and he's a little too involved in the football operations of things, which if you look at any of the top franchises in the NFL right now, the owner's not that involved in the football side of things. Even take the Eagles, who won the Super Bowl last year, where in this area, in the Philadelphia area, which I'm from, a lot of the criticism has always been, from the ownership standpoint, maybe getting involved and stepping on the toes a little bit of people in management, people on the football side of things. But credit to Jeffrey Lurie, he allowed Howie Roseman to make some moves, and even though Howie Roseman was doubted by many, including myself, Roseman proved that, okay, by letting the football people take care of the football things, by letting Doug Peterson make the calls that he wants to make, by putting the players in that he wants to make, by letting the football people draft the people they want to have, and get the free agents they want to get, they built a championship team. And that was always the problem for the Eagles, was this hands-on owner. Took a step back for a year or two, let the football people do their magic, let the people on that side, not the business side, because Jeffrey Lurie was always involved in the business side, but on the football operations of things, the owner could not be involved. Robert Kraft is not telling Bill Belichick who to draft. He lets Belichick take care of that. He doesn't care. As long as they keep winning and Belichick proves to be a good coach, he doesn't care. And if Belichick proves and they stop winning, he'll make the necessary adjustments to put the other bright people in their positions so this team can succeed. And as of right now, it's always felt like this. Jerry Jones is just too hands-on. He's too much. He wants to do everything himself, whereas the owner, you're supposed to delegate that responsibilities to other people. And in terms of the people he's supposed to delegate those responsibilities to, Jason Garrett, as a head coach in the NFL, he's starting to fall into that Marvin Lewis category over there in the Bengals, where year after year, Lewis has been there for a very, very long time with no postseason success. Jason Garrett, similar thing. Not as long as Lewis, but it's getting to that point where you begin to wonder what the actual goal of this franchise is. Because if they want to move forward, if they want to actually take a step in the right direction, Jason Garrett is not the head coach. This roster is not constructed to do that. Dak Prescott's a good quarterback, but I don't know. But he's the type of quarterback where you need to surround him with a lot of weapons, give him a running game, and give him a good defense. Then he'll take you places. But you can't expect him to do a lot because, as we saw, especially last night and just in general so far this season, is he can't carry a team. He's not that level of QB. You have to put the pieces around him. And that's no knock on Dak Prescott. There's very few QBs in this league who can overcome all of that. Even somebody like Aaron Rodgers, who has all these very similar obstacles that Dak Prescott faces with, has a tough time dragging his team in the playoffs. Because the fact of the matter is that there's way more than just the offense and the quarterback position that matters in the NFL. And while it doesn't seem like it makes any sense nowadays, especially with all these rule changes, just look at the team, at who won the Super Bowl last year, at some of the teams competing for it. The Vikings got very far. Case Keenum had a great season, but the defense was a real strength. Jacksonville got very far. Their defense was the real strength. Philadelphia got far. Throughout the season, their defense was playing very well. Now, later part of the in the Super Bowl and the game before against Minnesota, it was more along the lines of the offense and Nick Foles exploding. But the point of the fact is that you need more than just a great QB, and even the great ones have a difficult time pulling those teams up. Tom Brady has never won a Super Bowl with a bad defense. At the very least, those defenses have been solid because you just can't make it that far without somewhat of a supporting cast. And as of right now, I don't see how Dak Prescott has its supporting cast. I don't see where the change. There needs to be change in this organization, and I don't see that coming because of the ownership that's in place. They need to take a step forward, but they're just going to keep on putting Band-Aids on this problem that needs that needs surgery, basically. They're putting Band-Aids on a broken bone that needs surgery because they need to make some significant changes, whether it's trades, whether it's making different draft selections, free agency, things along those lines to really change the course of this roster because they have pieces there, whether it's Elliott, whether it is Prescott as a QB, but they need to add the right pieces surrounding them. And they need to overhaul that defense. Those are the critical points for the Dallas Cowboys that need to happen right now if they want to take a step forward in the right direction as a franchise. And with that, that'll wrap it up for this edition of the Jackson Neill Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, you can listen to this on SoundCloud, Stitcher, iTunes. Also, visit our sponsor, Believe the Hype, selling the latest sneakers. They have the best. They go and get the latest drops, the latest exclusive releases, and sell them straight to you guys. Right now, they have the Air Jordan 1 PSGs in size 11 and 11.5. Go follow them on Instagram and Twitter at BelieveHype2018. All the links to buy those shoes, Instagram, all that is in the description. Go check that out. Also, the links to my social medias, at Jackson Neill 20. There you get exclusive content from my upcoming interviews with musicians, sports writers, music writers, as well as bonus links to different podcasts and things along those lines. So go check those out as well. All of the links, everything you need to see down in the description of this podcast on whichever platform you like. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you all next time.